Hello and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're returning. Glad to have you either way. I'm Ashlee Shades and this is Shades of Love, where I bring you a story that I have written one chapter at a time. From start to finish, hopefully by the end of a month you'll have an entire story, give or take a week. Some of the content is a little bit steamy. You may hear some curse words, so just a little bit of a heads up if you're going to watch or listen along. And if at the end of the video you've liked what you've heard or seen, then I do hope that you consider subscribing because it's free. Totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. But it does help me. So I do hope that you enjoy it enough to do that and support me that way. And if you do like it and want to be notified, then hit the notification bell so that way you know when I upload the next chapter. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just get right in. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 2. Friday morning arrived before she knew it, and Charlie rushed to do a final check to make sure she wasn't forgetting anything. It was 6 a.m., and she still needed to shower and dress to be at JFK by 8:30. Traffic was hell, as usual on a Friday morning in New York. The blaring horns from the cars stuck in rush hour and the cuss words that she heard from pedestrians on the sidewalk did nothing to ease Charlie's impatience. She was running slightly behind. Nothing new for her. She had to make the flight or she was screwed. There were no other flights to Dublin until Monday morning. Finally, vehicles began to move again and she made the last few miles of the trip in record time. She parked her car in the closest parking lot available, not caring what the fees would be, and ran across the lot to the airport. She checked her bags and made it through security with less than 15 minutes to spare before boarding began. Charlie took her seat and listened to the flight attendants deliver the typical message before the flight took off. She settled in for the long flight by opening her laptop to review some research. She managed to dig up regarding her assignment. Hours later, Charlie's eyes began to water from all the reading, so she put her laptop away and pulled out her iPad and headphones. She turned on some of her favorite classical music, pulled the shade down, and fell asleep. 17 hours and one layover later, Charlie was deboarding the plane. It was just after 8 in the morning, local time, and she had two priorities. She needed food, and she needed to check into her hotel room so she could rest before exploring. Her rental car was ready when she arrived, and her hotel was just a few miles away from the airport. On her way, she decided to take a slight detour to check out the O'Sullivans' mansion. She slowed as she approached their estate. Charlie had always heard people refer to rolling hills when describing Ireland, and the O'Sullivans had that for acres. The place was gigantic, surrounded by a white security fence and an iron gate blocking vehicles from entering their driveway. The site of their home, set back and on a hill, was stunning. Charlie pulled out her notebook and jotted down a few notes, pulled out her camera and snapped a few shots. Then she continued on her way to catch some rest. The weekend had just begun. Chapter 3. Liam. It was around noon on Monday, and Liam was putting away returned books in the old library he volunteered at. "Thank you, Liam. You're such a nice young man. It's a wonder you haven't been grabbed up yet." Liam laughed. It was a running joke around the area. He, a 30-something bachelor with no plans of settling down. People wondered about him spending so much time with books, thinking him strange when all his friends had married off and started families in their 20s, while he spent his free time in a library surrounded with words. "It's a pleasure, Alice. I enjoy spending time here." Alice patted his shoulder and shuffled to the counter just as the library door opened. A young woman walked in, looking frantic and lost, her long hair pulled back in a loose ponytail with strands falling on each side of her face. He shook his head with a chuckle to himself. "May I help you?" Liam overheard Alice ask. Knowing Alice, she would help the woman with no trouble. Liam returned his attention back to the cart of books and continued placing them back on the shelves, A few moments later, the same panicked young woman approached the shelves near him, her finger grazing the cover of the books as she browsed, coming to a stop on the title, The History of the O'Sullivans. The O'Sullivans, huh? He asked. She glanced up at him, a startled expression on her face. Oh, sorry. She looked down at the book in her hand and then back up at him. Yeah, I kind of need some info on family, she explained. Liam leaned his shoulder against the bookcase and casually asked, or said, well, perhaps I could help? What do you need to know? She looked up at him. Well, you see, I'm supposed to do some research behind the reasons of them starting the literacy center. Liam gave her a quizzical look. You want to know as well? She asked him. No, but since I know the family personally, and may be of a service, I could help you answer some questions. May I? Liam extended his hand toward the book. She placed it in his hands and he opened it, skimming through the pages until he found the one he was looking for. Aha, here we are. He turned the book around and placed it in her hands, pointing to the paragraph that had her answers. The lady read quickly. Their son was illiterate? Liam smiled. Yeah, until he was a teenager. He always struggled back in school. The O'Sullivans worked for years to help him learn to read. Wow. The woman sounded amazed, which brought another smile to Liam's face. Their son had worked hard teaching himself to read, but he wasn't going to give that information away. That was something only those close to the family would ever know. How long do you have to write your story? Well, I'm supposed to turn my story in 2 weeks. I'm a photojournalist, so I'll be taking pictures of Dublin and the local attractions around the center and family at home as well. Liam invited the woman to sit at the table near the window and spent the next couple hours speaking with her, answering her questions to the best of his ability and neglecting his volunteer work in the library. When he realized how much time had passed, he excused himself. Well, look at the time, will you? I must finish putting these away before it's time to leave. Oh, I am so sorry to have monopolized all of your time. The woman quickly stood and gathered the books in her arms. Oh, it's no bother, really. I enjoyed talking with you. I'll be here tomorrow if you want to stop back in. He secretly hoped she would. He enjoyed spending time with her. She had a quick wit and a great sense of humor, and intelligence he hadn't come across in many women of his acquaintance. Yes, he was attracted to the beautiful woman. She grinned back at him. I think I'll do just that. What's your name so I can ask for you if I come by? He held out his hand. Liam. Pleasure meeting you, Miss... He left the question hanging. Charlotte. But you can call me Charlie. She replied and shook his hand. Till tomorrow then, Charlie. She smiled and waved by. He stood there watching her check out the books with Alice and then leave. He laughed to himself as he caught up on the work that he had yet to complete. He looked forward to seeing her again. Charlie. The nickname suited her, in Liam's opinion. Thank you for watching. For more videos like this, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And remember, today was just one chapter of your story.